This Sunday, March 23rd at 7 p.m., the Fort Garry Hotel will host a special evening of jazz as pianist Carter Graham takes the stage with Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn and Joe Henderson. The performance will delve into the artistry of two of jazz's most iconic figures, celebrating their profound contributions to the genre. Connecting these two legends, Graham will be using Joe Henderson's Grammy-winning record Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn, as the basis for the show. Strayhorn's sophisticated compositions and Henderson's emotional depth are brought together through Graham's powerful interpretations, creating an unforgettable experience of jazz for jazz enthusiasts. For those unfamiliar with Carter Graham, he is a versatile and accomplished musician whose passion for music has been a driving force in his life since childhood. His journey began with an early fascination with his parents' record player, which soon led to piano lessons. Carter's love for the creative process of music, especially composition and performance, quickly became the core of his artistic identity. With over a decade of professional experience, Carter has performed across North America along jazz icons such as John Gordon, Rodney Whittaker, Derek Gardner, Quincy Davis, and Randy Napoleon. The joy of creation and a desire to compose original music led him to pursue music as a career. His versatility as a performer has also seen him work with a wide range of artists, from blues bands to beatboxers to rappers to rock, funk, and soul musicians performing at major festivals across Canada and the USA. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about his upcoming show, Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn and Joe Henderson at the Fort Garry Hotel, I am joined by Carter Graham. Hey, Carter. Great to have you.
Hi, Chris.
So, Joe Henderson's Lush Life album is a tribute to Billy Strayhorn, and here you're doing a tribute concert about a tribute record, which is such a great idea. Firstly, as a pianist, when was the first time you heard Strayhorn, and what was it about his playing that drew you to him? Was it his work with Duke Ellington?
I would have to be honest and admit that I probably first heard Strayhorn while in school, being forced to probably play one of his charts, and I think it might have been. I know that on I think my final recital for my undergrad, I played Lush Life, which was at the time a big challenge for me because there's a couple things about that song. One is you have to have a bit of a harmonic vocabulary, I think, to be able to address that piece, and you have to treat the key it's in sits in a weird spot, so you're actually limited, especially in the verse, what you can do, and so you have to sort of craft a way. So it was a lot of like listening to people's different versions, and I think that's how I got into that to Strayhorn in that piece, and then through that, obviously through going to school and stuff, just being exposed to. I know some teachers love the song Upper Manhattan Medical Group is a really fun like a song people call on sessions sometimes and things like that. So
yeah. Strayhorn was classically trained, and when I hear his music and his piano playing, it's not your typical 2-5-1 progressions that he's using. There are elements that actually remind me of French Impressionists, speaking as a classical guy, lots of 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. In your own playing, is this something that you try to duplicate, or?
Yeah, well, I would say yes, and it translates into your writing as well. Like You mentioned classically trained. I was reading about him, and of course this is an unfortunate story we hear so many times with black artists, that he was sort of kept out of the classical world even though he wanted to explore that and be a part of it. And then I think he found his vehicle through finding Duke Ellington. And you're right, he doesn't write very traditional standard changes all of the time. He sometimes does. But I have a feeling with someone of his caliber of compositional output, he's probably, I can't speak for him obviously, but his melodic writing is so strong, and then his knowledge of harmony, probably through study and studying classical music and all kinds of music. We can study any kind of music to get that from. It's probably a question of exploring, okay, I have this melody, what can I what can I put underneath this to make it sing? And so you're right. He has these, Chelsea Bridge has some somewhat unusual harmonies. Starts off. He likes to start off tunes with interesting chords too. I know it's like Chelsea Bridge and A Flower's a Love Something. You're starting off with like a Lydian dominant kind of sound, and you go, well, you don't really hear that often. Usually, song starts on the major chord or the minor chord. So it's kind of interesting, and the way he can weave away from that and get you to the end of the piece is just beautiful. So, yeah.
The program on Sunday, it's going to examine Strayhorn's groundbreaking compositional techniques. Are you going to be talking about his orchestrations that he did with Ellington and some of those unique voicings that he did?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the show, I think, and it's a bit of a challenge because they are shorter sets. So I will do my best to keep the music moving, but also give some of that information in between songs and try to. I want to paint a picture of both of their lives a little bit and how I'm trying to weave them together and make the connection between their music. Yeah.
I'm just going to ask it here. When I was prepping for the interview, one of the things that came up was Strayhorn was in the shadow of Ellington. Do you think that was the case?
I think it would be easy to, well, in music what happens a lot is there's so much collaboration going on, and it's not even a tangible product. That it's not like this coffee mug here that I can hold and you can sell it to me if you wish, and I have to physically have it to know that I bought it from you. So you're dealing with collaboration, which I, as a freelance musician, I do all the time with many different people, and sometimes I contribute things to their original music, and I go, this little piece of me is in that song, and I know that, and I usually remember who I did that with. But I'm not going to get a credit or see anything from that. And I think on a lot of these charts, I had read this as well, and that Strayhorn was concerned that Ellington's name and the publisher was putting Duke Ellington as the composer on songs, and he was either being omitted or sort of second fiddle or afterthought. Sometimes his name was on it, and it was a point of contention, as it should be, because the set, in this business, it's hard enough as it is. So if you're and as we know, Billy Strayhorn being openly queer black man at that time in history, life was hard enough as it is, and now to not get the credit for like this beautiful compositional output he's contributing to the world, that probably bothered him, and I think it would bother anybody.
And then you've got Joe Henderson. As a reed player myself, I love his sound. How were you introduced to Joe Henderson?
Joe Henderson. How did I get introduced to? Sometimes these are hard to answer because it's like. Normally I think I have those moments where I remember. I think for me, Joe Henderson would have had to be. I had to be at a place musically to even appreciate what he was doing. But I definitely love his music, and I think probably my earliest exposure was hearing the song "Record a May" at a jam session and going, "Oh, this is a great melody, great song, has a cool vibe," and then being told this is Joe Henderson. At the time, not really exploring him much, but now that I've listened to more of his records, is one of my favorite jazz albums of all time. Maybe only actually he's on my favorite of all time. So his record In and Out is probably only second to McCoy Tyner's The Real McCoy, and Joe Henderson is on that album. And so the fun part for me is between the two of them, I find you play differently if it's your album. I don't know for sure. Again, this is just my interpretation, is that when Joe is on McCoy's album, Joe is playing some just incredible stuff, and there's more looseness to it, whereas McCoy, he's playing it's one of the greatest records of all time, but he's maybe playing a little more reserved. And then on the In and Out record, I hear McCoy doing it just feels more explorative, and you go, just really cool to hear the two working together in that era, in like mid 60s, mid to late 60s.
The album Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn, as recorded by Joe Henderson, that's sort of the connective tissue for this concert. The album has been described as pure genius, and it is. How do you think Henderson captured the genius of Strayhorn on the album?
I think he captured it because Joe himself is such a fantastic improviser, and I think to be one of the greatest improvisers of all time, you have to be a great composer, and because in essence that's what you're doing. And I think Joe Henderson, for all that he's obviously he is a modern, what we call modern 1960s, now that's old, but modern jazz musician, he still plays very melodically. So to me, it's almost about playing like normal melodies we'd hear, major minor melodies over top of maybe more unusual, complex, or modal harmony.
Yeah.
And so I think being someone of his musical ability, it's not a leap for him to go back to someone like Strayhorn, who was ahead of his time, and really deliver this beautiful album of, here's my interpretation of this. And as I understand it, my understanding is, this may be wrong, someone can correct me, that he was sort of contractually forced to make that album along with a Joe Beam tribute album by Verve for some contractual thing, and apparently he may not have wanted to do that. And again, I was talking about this with somebody recently, saying that often when you make an artist sort of unhappy, but they are forced to play, sometimes they play better.
Yeah.
So there might have been a bit of an element of an edginess to it, and okay, I got to get through this. But the music speaks for itself. It's just one of the greatest albums ever, and for something to come out in, 91, I think the year I was born, it came out.
Grammy Award winning.
Yeah, Grammy Award winning, and just a beautiful sort of homage to a great American composer.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about some of the tunes that you're going to be performing on Sunday? I imagine Take the A Train is going to be on the list, and Lush Life.
This was so tricky about this because, like I said earlier, the sets are very short. So I had to curate the set, and I had the decision of going, do we play more songs? Because there's so many songs to pull, especially with two artists who wrote great music. There's not like it's hard to pick a song from either of them.
Right.
It was a question of, okay, do we play more songs and have them really short? Or do we play more? And for me, with the band I have, we have Kevin Waters on drums, John Gordon on alto sax, and Carl Kohut on bass.
Mm-hmm.
These are musicians where I think I'd rather have the time to like let things develop with them. And of course, I feel very supported when I play with musicians of that caliber. So to answer your question, no, A-Train actually won't be on there, oddly enough. I mean, I love playing that song. I've played it for years. But I was trying to pick, I always think about building a set and trying to make it have a flow, which was somewhat of a challenge with this because you're dealing with two different artists. So it's like, okay, I can't pick too many low-key songs from either of them, or I can't pick too many of this kind of vibe because, do I have enough variety to keep the sets interesting? So we are going to hear Lush Life, though, because you can't skip Lush Life. Yeah. That's just too much of a one of the greatest songs ever written, probably. I think it could go on a Rolling Stones top 100 list and be in the top 3 easily for me.
I was introduced to that tune through the Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane.
I love that album. Yeah. That album is one of the best albums of all time as well. And that rendition, McCoy Tyner playing piano, just can't get enough of that. Yeah,
spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I got to ask, when I was thinking about and listening to Billy Strayhorn's playing, as an improviser, there's so many places you can go harmonically, like because of the chord progressions that he uses. Fully diminished 7th chords are a beautiful thing. Do you find that as well as a pianist?
Do I find
like that you can go to more remote areas as an improviser?
Well, yes. So there's the element of straddling the line between you have these really complex harmonies, and I think for me, the type of musician I am, I want to be musical first, and so we can get as complex as we want, but is like, am I treating the song right? And what is the story of the song what are we trying to convey, the message? So I think bringing melody back in, no matter what, no matter how complex it gets, bringing melody back in, because both of these musicians are great writers, and I want to also give that the proper treatment it deserves. But yes, you can be very adventurous, and that's the other thing with a band like that we have for the show. It's so easy to get to those places, and because when you do that, you're sometimes taking a risk, and that's kind of what the whole point of the music is to take some calculated risks. You're going to be supported, and if something doesn't quite work out the way you thought, it doesn't matter. You just move on, and everyone there is such a great musician. You're going to be supported no matter what, and that's my role as an accompanist as well. Like when someone is soloing, I want them to feel like I'm giving them the rhythmic impetus and harmonic, structure to live on top of. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The show on Sunday sounds like it is going to be amazing. Strayhorn and Henderson, you just can't miss. What do you hope audiences are going to take away on Sunday's show?
Well, I hope they take away an appreciation that two musicians from two different generations can contribute so much to the musical idiom of not just jazz, but music in general. And that I hope what I can I can and my band can convey the beauty of the music to them. I want them to walk away feeling uplifted. Yeah.
Perfect. Carter, this has been so great to have you here. Thanks so much for taking the time to stop by and talk to me about Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn and Joe Henderson. All the best. I hope the room on Sunday is packed.
I hope so too. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
For our Classic 107 listeners, Lush Life, the music of Billy Strayhorn and Joe Henderson, as performed by Carter Graham, takes place this Sunday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Fort Garry Hotel. For more details, visit jazzwinnipeg.com or go to classic107.com. I've embedded a direct link to the show page in the article about the concert you can find up there now.
Great.
Carter, thanks again.
Thank you.